I'm live. I've beaten you this time.
You have. Clearly, YouTube is... now I'm alive. I'm alive! I'm alive!
Yep, there you go. I've just got the notification from you.
Fabaroo. Always a shambolic first 10 seconds of the stream before we do anything. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Failcast F1 Radio. My name is Mr. Falkenberg, as ever, retired now from F1, but probably back for 2021. And alongside me is your taco extraordinaire, who is currently having to, in a bizarre YouTube video, say that he has now met Jimmy Broadbent, because that is clearly the way that YouTube's hierarchy of celebrity works. It is definitely Zero. How are you doing?
Hello, mate. Well, to tell you what, I haven't just met Jimmy Broadbent. He actually, we once shared a paella, but he wouldn't split the bill. Dick, really. There you go. There's some gossip for you. And what's his name? Arava. I actually bought an air filter from him for a Vauxhall Nova, but the box just had a brick in it, so twat. I wonder actually when, because I only found out the other day that YouTube takes all these streams of videos, and whether you opt in or not, it converts them into text and analyses the text.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if actually you're right, and dropping those names now gets us bumped up the listings a little bit.
Ah, cool.
Either that or we devolve into a drama channel. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Failcast F1 podcast after a 3-week break, which was my fault. However, it has allowed a lot of news to accumulate.
It has indeed.
So we do have a lot to cover, and I have a Red Bull, obviously. Drinking alcohol last time didn't help. I still crashed.
I think they spiked your drink with water. That was the problem.
Exactly. Ruined it. Now, the thing is, I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm actually quite good round here.
No!
Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. But I am. I'm a bit handy around Russia.
Camera pans inside the mouth as you scream, and you can see the tonsil go in the background. I'm not so great round here, so this could be advantage you.
Well, I mean, we know what happens, right? What happens is what happens the entire season. I qualify on pole, even when I don't intend to, Monaco. And then I crash on about lap 2. That's the rules now. That's the format of the show. And actually, I was watching one of our episodes back. It was Monaco from not last year, the year before. And if you remember, that's the episode where I deliberately tried to start last so I could avoid any first corner problems, and then got pole while I wasn't paying attention. and the reaction from both of us is actually hilarious, because I was so in the moment in that episode. I've never watched it back. It didn't twig, but we were having such a good conversation. I just had my foot to the floor, and I was just going around the track, and suddenly pole position out of nowhere. That's how inept we are, actually.
We can't even do it wrong, right?
Failing to fail.
We should be Tory government, really. Manor How's in the chat, wishing us both well and everything. We are alive and kicking, thank you very much. And we hope that you are, and all of our listeners too. You will see me being very ragged on the steering wheel for the first couple of laps, because I've been... in the latest sales on the PlayStation Network, before we get into the F1 stuff, loads of the Milestone motorbike games were on. They're all exactly the same. Just get the latest version and you can skip the previous 24 that they've released. All the tracks carry over as well. But I've been busy kind of idly playing that, because those games are so anodyne that they commit the cardinal sin of being just boring enough to be relaxing so that you mindlessly play, and then you win, and then you're like, oh, and then you zombily click next race, a bit like a fatso that's got type 2 diabetes in a cake shop, just going Krispy Kremplers. You just don't
it's
know.
It's a Stoffel Van Dorn vortex.
Yes.
Just criminally boring, totally forgettable.
Van Dorn 2020 edition comes with pre-bonus DLC of one other customizable skin. that is in black and white. So you're just like, no! So I've been playing that, but the problem is that there is no finesse to any of their driving things, and so it's just hammer left, hammer right. So I'm having to remember that there is degrees of angle of steering, and this game makes you do that. So apologies in advance.
I was going to say, it sounds like you were right at home there in a racing game that requires no finesse. That's what I've been finding as well. Anything that doesn't require me to be patient in any way, I'm suddenly getting quite good at.
Yeah.
I think lockdown, I'm going to blame lockdown for my atrocious driving this year. I think that's what it is. All my frustration comes out on the track. And after being bossed around by the government, then I refuse to be bossed around by fucking Kimi Räikkönen. Right, so getting into the F1 stuff, it has been quite a busy 3 weeks. And I want to start, if I can, with some sad news, which is, of course, Williams.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, and it really was out of nowhere, actually, because Rocket have always seemingly been on the level, quite a good sponsor, actually, and very supportive of Williams. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the unannounced logo change on Facebook happened. And you know what that means. As soon as a sponsor is removed from a profile picture, it's like changing your relationship status to it's complicated. It just, nothing good's coming of it.
I was waiting for the new profile picture to just have, like, Richard Story's massive Rich Energy beard hanging in the background.
Well, Rich Energy did step in to kick Williams while they were down, which I found quite distasteful, but, nothing surprises me about them now.
No. Although on that, just before you dive in, the picture that he said that was a mock-up of Rich Energy showing the Williams sponsors before they said no was stolen from someone who made it on Reddit, so he didn't even create his own put-down. So
he's such a bastard, isn't he? He really is.
There's not many people
and he's
that
back in control of that company, and it's still going. I have no idea what's going on. And they sponsor, like, the West Ham women's football team and a bunch of MotoGP riders. I don't know if anyone's getting paid. Regardless, though, Williams were getting paid by Rocket phones.
Yeah, somehow.
And Rocket's a company, actually, I've become a bit of a fan of, because some of their products are quite cool. But it seems Williams terminated the agreement, and there's some lack of clarity about what's been going on, whether Rocket didn't stick to the payment terms, or if there's an issue because the season is too short, or because the season hasn't started on time. It's complicated, like the relationship status. However, not 24 hours after that, it came out that Williams released a statement saying that they were seeking new investment. No surprise, they've been seeking new investment for, forever. Mm-hmm. But that would include anything up to and including a full sale of the team. Now, it was only last year that Claire Williams said it was over her dead body that Williams would ever be sold or become a B team.
Yeah.
Can't help but notice that she's still alive. Obviously, that's a good thing. I'm not suggesting otherwise, but clearly, even though things look like they were on rock bottom already, something particularly bad has happened as a result of the coronavirus situation. I know the whole Brexit situation was causing them some trouble as well. The team had said that we can operate whatever happens. It's the lack of clarity that's causing pain, which I totally understand. At the time, of course, they still had Williams Advanced Engineering under the company umbrella. For those that don't know, Williams Advanced Engineering was a division of the Williams F1 team. They basically used the equipment at the Williams factory and the engineering skills of the staff initially to build things like parts for turbines, or to build clutches and gearboxes and battery systems for other racing series, but also, medical applications and all kinds of things, a bit like McLaren Technologies as well. And actually, Williams Advanced Engineering also opened a facility in Qatar in the Middle East, and that was a thing for a bit. And it was a profitable company. It was actually, through all the recent years that Williams have been struggling, it was the advanced engineering business that was paying the bills and keeping the lights on as the prize money dried up. Earlier this year, they sold that company. Probably quite easy to do because it was a profitable company. So, easy sale. But it did seem to me at the time a very short-sighted move, and it turns out it's a burden always being right and handsome, because not 6 months after the sale, the team's now in a financial black hole. So clearly the money from that sale was enough to keep the lights on for the last 6 months. Now, the only silver lining here is that Toto Wolff, who was formerly a partner of Frank Williams in Williams, so he was previously a shareholder, he's bought back his previous shareholding, which he had to sell due to a conflict of interest when he became team principal of Mercedes. Now, he's leaving Mercedes. Obviously, though, he's not going to Williams because, as we know, it's strongly rumoured and it's all but confirmed that he's going to take on a role at Aston Martin Racing from next year. Now, Williams, Aston Martin Racing / Racing Point, Badger, Eyebrows, Force Stroll, and obviously the Mercedes team itself all use Mercedes powertrains.
Yes.
So it's all wheels within wheels and a strange situation, but it does smack of me a little bit of a ABC team structure, which we've not seen yet in Formula One. And it's raised a lot of interesting question marks. Obviously, I don't want to gloss over the fact that we are losing our last true privateer, because even if the Williams name remains above the door, it's no longer really owned by the Williams family, and no doubt a lot of the shareholding will be taken up by investment companies, hedge funds, etc. That's usually what happens in these cases. So obviously that's sad, and I know you're probably thinking, well, Sauber are still going, and they are, but the F1 team is no longer a privateer because it's got works backing from Ferrari in the form of Alfa Romeo. But still, a lot of questions now arise. It's still not clear what's going to happen to Valtteri Bottas. It's still not totally clear what's going to happen to Lewis Hamilton, given his relationship with Toto Wolff. It's not entirely clear why Toto Wolff is leaving Mercedes is it the end of this season? He's leaving already?
I don't know if it's actually been publicly announced, has it?
Toto leaving has been confirmed, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I've missed this entirely. Clearly, not looking outside my window. Hey, Rhino, by the way.
He's had to deny that it's because he doesn't get along with the new CEO of the Daimler Group. But
okay. Drama.
But that sounds a bit like the lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, especially if that question has not been provoked.
Yeah.
It's a bit like me going, no, I'm not coming to dinner for you because I don't like your asparagus. Yeah, no.
Don't be silly. So, yeah, it's all very unclear. Now, obviously, we lost Niki Lauda last year. That was very, very, very sad, and that was another thing keeping Lewis at Mercedes. Vettel's on the market, which we're going to get into in a little bit. So what the bloody hell is happening?
Doesn't it feel a bit like the end of... like the passing of Niki is the start of the deformation of that collection of the Dream Team? A bit like when Ferrari started to fall when Michael Schumacher left the Ferrari early 2000 years. It wasn't much longer before you'd have
sorry, mate.
A Todd.
Go through Hulkenberg ruined my lap, so...
It did look a bit dodge from up there. I wonder if it's the start of that. Like, when you're successful and it's just maintaining something... someone like Toto, I imagine, would be like, cool, what's my next challenge? Especially when, for me, with lockdown, for Vettel, he's gone, I don't want to do this challenge anymore, so therefore I'd like to retire, is where I think his head is at. For me, with Toto, I think he's also I don't like the CEO behind the scenes. Lockdown has made me aware of that, and there's a really interesting Sky F1 interview actually where he talks about lockdown making him think of new things and stuff. I'm just going to get out of the way because I need to sort out.
I'm going to the pits, mate.
Oh.
Now I'm going to the pits a bit faster.
That's all right. So for me, it's for people who are a TED talk about to happen, who is a Toto Wolff for me. It's what do I do next for my challenge? What is my next big priority in life once coronavirus is lifted? And I think he's gone, do you know what? I can milk everything out of this that I want to. What else can I do? Who else can I pull up? And I wouldn't be surprised if whatever role he takes at Aston Martin, or indeed if he wants to do it Williams instead, it won't be the same role as to what he's had at Mercedes, because that's a repetition. He would want something fresh. I don't know what that would be, but that's my
well, I mean, he was never a racing guy anyway, as I understood it. Wasn't he? I mean, he was in investments and stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of F1 team principals go that route these days. I mean, the days of Christian Horner's probably the last one I can think of who cuts his teeth in, as a driver first of all, and then, getting into the management side of it, and then eventually, proving himself as a team principal in lower formulae and coming up. Now it seems like, based on Ferrari and McLaren's recent history, you make a buttload of money doing marketing for a tobacco company, and then you suddenly get handed the keys to the factory. And also, it's the same question we had around Paddy Lowe to some extent. Like, how much of what's happened is Toto Wolff? Because, when Mercedes' first championship came along, the prevailing view was, well, Ross Brawn really laid the foundations and left before he could reap the rewards. But then, the success kind of went a bit too long, I think, for that to be a convenient explanation. But you never know how truly influential Niki Lauda was. But, I mean, he didn't have a great track record given what happened at Jaguar.
Yeah.
So the whole thing's very interesting. I mean, the only thing that makes me super sad is that if Toto, and I do like Toto Wolff, if he does go to Aston Martin, then what happens to Ottmar Schnitzelbauer, or whatever his name is?
Yeah, and I think Ottmar's letters on the wall a little bit from... wasn't he the one that was involved in the dodgy McLaren Alonso stuff? The terrible IndyCar entry, or have I got my people confused?
I think you've got your people confused. I think Ottmar has been at Force India for a long time, but I could be mistaken. You never know. Isn't it fun when we don't know which one of us is wrong, but we know for a fact one of us is?
It's a bit
refreshing.
It is. We can't be right 100% of the time, otherwise this podcast would be boring. Normally we cover what's wrong by just how our driving is on track. And that for me also as well, like, when you start breaking up all of the things that go on in Mercedes, that to me continues to make me think, do you know what, Mercedes have had enough as a constructor. Let's continue supplying engines, because then actually it's a profitable business model. Because we're going to have to slowly over time shift all of these people out with a budget cap. And you'll see, like with McLaren, where they've done that massive layoff of 1,200 people, a lot of that is actually going to have to happen across all of the big three teams as well, because McLaren have been busy still operating with the overheads, essentially, of a big top three team, just with zero results to show for it, because they've just continued on as normal. The problem there is that Red Bull, Mercedes, and so on and so forth will have to continue going on. Oh, that was a twattish thing to do, Simon.
Oh, you sneaked pole, you cheeky git, by 0.033 seconds.
Oh, I'm causing. I've caused so much trouble.
Oh, this is brilliant! You're ruining everyone's laps.
I have. I've caused it. Oh, it's because I've got a puncture. Oh, I've never had that happen before.
You've not had a puncture before in this game? I have like 3 a season.
Not from hitting my front wing.
And you've just taken a Ferrari out.
Yes, I have.
Are you going to get a penalty for that?
Sorry, Leclerc.
This is the best ending to qualifying we've had in ages.
I will make it. I will make it. So I hit my front wing on the wall, but then I got a puncture either from the result of my debris or something. Yes, that was bizarre. Sorry.
Hold
New
on, why am I
things
starting third now? Who beat us?
I went down to fourth.
How did you go down to fourth when you were faster than me and I qualified? Oh, you've got a penalty. No, you haven't. Hamilton got between us.
Dirtbag.
God damn.
There's always a needle between us. Disgusting. Fair. Oh well. A little bit of carnage at the end of a race. Bit of a sesh, as usual. So yeah,
you know what this means, though? I'm starting the race directly behind you, and that's never, ever, ever ended well.
Also, remember... do you know what, actually? That could work out not too bad for us, because the AI do love to pinch on that kink. We've had this before in previous games. Bonking.
Pinch on the king, who were...
Ooh. It's all gone a bit red light district. But do you think, though, that maybe Toto is looking at alternative options because of the budget cap, so therefore they can look at keeping more staff on board? It then comes across looking a bit better for people.
Do you know, I actually think it's a really good chance to take on that challenge of rebuilding a team like Williams, or taking someone like Force India to the next level. I mean, the thing is, Williams have had quite a big budget for many, many years now. Mm-hmm. Yet Force India Badger Racing Stroll have shown that they can get fourth in the constructors with the smallest budget on the grid.
Yeah.
So, as the old adage goes, it's what you do with it that counts. And maybe Toto's thinking, well, really, this budget cap affects the big three plus McLaren the most. If there's ever a time to take Aston Martin to the front, it's now.
Yeah. Because think of what a amazing, well-oiled machine they'll be. Watch out, you've got... Oh yeah, you're okay. I'm not.
No, of course, I've already lost some wing because of Verstappen. It's just an end plate. They just drive into you. It's really irritating, and now I'm going to lose loads of time because I can't stay foot to the floor through the fast corners.
Something's going on around your way. Have you got a protest or something going on?
We do, actually. There's a big Black Lives Matter protest going on a few blocks away. I'm going to have to pit early because I'm losing weight.
Okay. I do think you've got, in general, you've got more pace than me. I just hooked up my perfect lap. That was all.
Yeah, but I'm not faster than the AI, which is concerning.
Disgraceful. Okay. Yeah, because so coming back to your point there, I think efficiency is going to end up being the name of the game going forward in the future. So, Badger Eyebrows Racing Full Stroll Otmao the second anniversary edition, I think actually could be a very, very good bet for the long-term future, because they've had to work under that constraint for a long time, whereas Williams have pissed money up the wall at left, right and centre in the past. The amount of infrastructure in place that's had to get Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari to where they are is fine, but they're just going to chip away at it, especially as things become more customer parts wise. And I think one of the other things that Toto is very, very good at is around mind management and people management. And so if you go to a team that has been essentially the same lot of people since about 1991, because no one seems to have left there, it's the same thing for McLaren actually. The reason why they've got massive overheads is that it's turned out that although McLaren have had a real horrible slump, everyone loved to work there, so no one's ever left. And part of the 1200 clear out, people were saying, was that just where they were in their big boom years, everyone came on board to help, but then no one really left or went anywhere. They just kind of moved around the actual company itself. So that's why they've had to kind of shed people now that they aren't able to carry that monetary overhead anymore. So there's also a bit of a thing for me where I feel like if you've seen the announcements that came out this morning, I think it was, that Liberty Media have said that there will be no new manufacturers until 2026, which is huge. With all of these people,
see that, and it's not good.
No, for me that screams all of these people who are going to be excess in other people's teams. What can we do to fill out the 11th and 12th teams on the grid to make competitive customer teams that maybe do fall into this A, B, C tier structure that you see Mercedes putting in with their engines? I know people were like Caterham and Marussia / Virgin / Manor / any other Branson related deal team weren't necessarily always on the pace, but eventually we saw that with proper infrastructure and backing and parity engines, Manor were on board with the rest again. It's just that no one was able to keep up with the budget at the time to survive. Now that that's come down, could we scoop up all of these extra people to create Team 11 and Team 12, go for the F1 Junior team, to pick up a Carlin or a Arden or something like that? Russian time, get them back.
Yeah. I know you'd love that. Get Markelov in F1.
Yeah, Charouz, that's a Sauber Junior team. So could you have maybe not a Charouz? So they get sponsored basically to be a junior team for someone. Does McLaren want to revive a junior program at a later point and then have a second lot of team that could help people through? I don't know. I'm spitballing.
I do think ultimately the budget cap's going to be helpful. It's just going to be highly disruptive for now. Hello, Canaanite. I hope you're well, mate. As you can tell, I have had a bit of a bash, as what normally happens, but I am fast. And I have a good feeling about this Grand Prix. I pitted super early because I was losing time because my end plate fell off because of a certain Max Verstappen. And now I'm finding my feet. I'm on a slower tyre than everyone else, but I'm gaining by several seconds per lap. So hopefully by the end of the Grand Prix, I'm somewhere good.
Woot. Talking of Max Verstappen,
yes,
I was listening to, as I take a very liberal line for a corner, the latest Beyond the Grid podcast, and the name of who it was that was on it has completely escaped me. But they live next door to Adrian Newey, and before the lockdown they used to do morning runs together, and apparently he was saying, Adrian Newey was saying, like the same old thing. Red Bull won't be there for the first few races of the season, but will catch back up again. But that start of the season is no longer the start of the season, and they thought that actually they would be in their most competitive year to date, and that the car absolutely suits Verstappen down to the ground, and he's mega pumped. So, with a season that now starts at Austria, followed by the oddly named Spearmark or whatever it is Grand Prix, and I want to throw a topic out there to the watchers at the minute. If you got the chance to rename the double-headed Grand Prix, what would you call them? Do you think that Red Bull could be a title challenger this year? Because we're basically starting the season at the point where they normally caught back up again.
Excellent question. Kanan Knight swings in to save the day for you, by the way. It was Kovalainen on the podcast.
Thank you.
Excellent question. What I would say is yes, in one word. The general consensus is that the new Ferrari is bad.
Yes.
Really bad. And there's a rumour that that's part of what drove a wedge between Vettel and Ferrari. Vettel wasn't prepared to drop his terms. Ferrari wanted to drop his pay because he had a bad season, bad 2 seasons really. They've got Leclerc, and in the end, Vettel just didn't care enough about driving a piss poor car that now he's going to be stuck with for 2 years. So again, lockdown strikes. That inclines me to think that we know the Mercedes is good. It's got that stupid DAS system that should be illegal and now is. But it should have been illegal all along because you're changing the toe angle of the car, which is illegal under the Parc Fermé rules, but apparently it doesn't matter when Mercedes do it. No, really, you're not allowed to change the suspension geometry on the car, right?
Yep.
That is a rule. So how is a magic steering wheel that changes the toe angle of the car not changing the suspension geometry?
Agree.
And the FIA is like, well, it's not illegal, but we will ban it, just not this year. And it's like, so it's illegal then, isn't it? That's what you're saying. It is illegal. You just don't want to risk losing Mercedes.
Because there's a bit of a thing that suggests that they've already used it before, haven't they, actually, on races, but no one can, say for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's always this sort of shady side of the engineering in F1, right? I mean, we were talking about Ross Brawn earlier, and, he presided over a Benetton team that was using traction control illegally.
Yeah.
Oh, Leclerc's out. Hope you're not in the middle of the road, Leclerc. No, but you're not far off. Did you take Leclerc out? Is it qualifying 2.0?
No. It happened behind. I've just taken a bollard out. That's about it.
I am using all my ERS energy way too quickly. Anyway, to answer your question more directly, yes, I do think it could be a Verstappen Hamilton season, which is not necessarily a bad thing, even though I'm not in the fan club of either. That said, what I would love more than anything will be for Bottas or Albon to take the title.
Well, Mika Hakkinen seems to have got on his weird soapbox to declare that this is Bottas's year. I don't know how many patches he needs before he hits full Game of the Year edition. I don't know.
Bottas Game of the Year edition, exactly. No, but I mean, I would love it, partly just for the troll value, right? Because you remember when Rosberg won his championship, which seems like a lifetime ago.
It does, actually,
right?
Yeah.
And I love how that pisses off the Hamilton fans. There's a little troll side of me that really takes pleasure in that, because I can always, whenever they say, well, he shouldn't have. He didn't deserve the title, and it only happened because of Hamilton's engine problem at Malaysia, and the team did it on purpose and all kinds of nonsense. And I can always point out and say, well, arguably, Rosberg's the most deserving champion of all time because reliability has always been a factor in Formula One, and he won a championship in the longest ever season. He had to be better longer than any champion in history. And that's true. And also it drives them fucking bananas, and I love it. And I'd love it even more if Albon or Bottas takes the title on an 8-round championship. That would be so good.
Yeah, because all you need is a couple of absolute clangers down, like Austria, turn 1 and turn 2, or 3 rather, both carnage creators. So all we need is Vettel returning from his slumber, but he's brought a pillow. So that takes out at least 3 people. Then, I don't know, Carlos Sainz is a smooth operator and decides that he's defected early and decides to take out whoever's left to endear the Italians to him early on, or something like that. Or Giovinazzi gets raged that he's going to be overtaken by... that he's been stepped over by everyone and decides to go all-out war and takes out Leclerc and Vettel at the same time or something like that. Love it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if Verstappen loses the discipline that he's been slowly building up over his career, and, you know, he is prone to it, he does get frustrated and spin out, he gets frustrated and makes overly aggressive moves. If he crashes in, you know, if he has 2 of those incidents within the season, that's 25% of the races that he's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you know, the stakes are a lot higher in each Grand Prix. And actually, I think it's Hamilton who's best suited to flourish in those circumstances.
Agree. And actually, that's an interesting point, because we've long kind of gone, oh, these championships are longer, oh, we're doing X, Y, and Z, or stuff like that. Now, actually, every single lap is going to carry for so much more because there's so little of them now. And so I wonder how... It's interesting because you've got that dichotomy of, I need to make this move work because I've only got a few chances to win. I can't go for the long game. But I think some people will wilt under that, and I think Vettel is the potential to be one of those that will. And Hamilton prosper.
He's not been good at handling the pressure lately, has he?
No.
Old Sebastian.
Good old Seb. I wonder how long's he been a father for? I like to wheel out that one every once in a while, because they keep on saying...
Rosberg said the same thing, right?
Yeah.
He said that having a kid is part of the reason why he retired, but it makes you slower. Quite a few drivers have said that, actually, like having a kid costs you
3/10 or something. Oh, jinx. But yeah. Oh no, Carlos, no. Might be driving a Ferrari soon, but not yet. Oh, that was a good move.
Are you talking to yourself there?
It was, yeah, sorry. Sainz went into the side of me at the end of Sector 2, and then we went side by side around the chicane, and then he tank slapped into me coming out of it, and it looked quite cool. That was all.
I almost had a coming together with Perez there, but I got past him.
Nice.
I had to totally drain my ERS though to make that happen, and I'm gonna have to switch out of rich
energy.
Yeah, well, I think it's wise to move away from rich energy generally, to be honest.
This is true.
Like a tramp on a train, just edge away.
Talking of Mercedes in other things as well, isn't it interesting that Mercedes were the ones that vetoed the reverse grid gimmick for qualifying for the qualifying race on the second ones?
Yes and no, but to be honest with you, I don't like reverse grids, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think setting a sport up with rules that says go out and build the best car that you possibly can, and then punishing the people who do a good job, that's ludicrous. You know, I mean, my argument has always been there's plenty of racing series out there that have things like reverse grids or single spec machinery or so on. If you want those things, you're well catered to. But there's very few racing series that require the application of a full team effort the way that F1 does. I mean, not even Formula E does, because that's to some extent a spec series still. So I don't want reverse grids. I don't think it's necessarily helpful.
Would you like a gimmick for the second round of these double headers? And do you have gimmicks that you would like to try out and see? And if anyone in the chat's got any gimmicks they'd like to throw in, please do let us know.
Honestly,
or are you
no.
a purist?
I'm a very boring purist when it comes down to this. The thing is that I know partly why Mercedes said no, right? It's well documented, and Patrick Head gave a great speech about it actually on a Autosport live interview. That because you can't disrupt the airflow in a wind tunnel, so you can't simulate following another car. Cars tend to be well optimized for running in clean air. And if you've got a car that you think is fast enough for pole, then you're going to always optimize for best clean air running, right? Because you want the best performance possible while you're out there in front. So yeah, totally get that. And that means the Mercedes is bad at following other cars. I don't know if this Mercedes is as bad as previous ones have been. But you have had some temperamental Mercedes down the years. Was it the 2013 car that was fast enough for pole, but was crap in a race? Yeah,
it used to eat its tyres, didn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it's just a logic thing as well. Like, why would you punish a team for doing a good job?
Yeah. I think for me, I'm not particularly a fan of the qualifying race. There's a curiosity of me that would like to see how a reverse grid would play, but in the same way that W Series tried it out, and it was entertaining, but actually threw up a complete nonsensical result, because a woman who had not scored all season won. And we was like, And so in that format, she would have been like absolutely amazing. But the reason why she started last on pole and won was because she'd done naff all year. So I was a bit like, not so sure on this one. Although I was entertained. For me, the double headers, the way to get round the stagnation. I know tracks are homologated. I can never say that word.
Homologated.
That's the one.
Happy to help.
Thank you. The voice of universal credit can't say the right words. It's I would have liked to have seen other layouts used. So there is something that I'd have loved to have had a 200 national layout Grand Prix, 200 laps, National Silverstone. Wet myself laughing at that, going round Old Bridge or something. Just because, like, give it 20 laps and it turns into a weird, bizarre, like, short circuit IndyCar type race, or like NASCAR race where they're all going around Bristol and you've got to really deal with the fact that you're lapping Robert Kubica for the 29th time. So that would have been interesting. I would have liked them to have organised the calendar better as well, so that maybe they could have tried out some other circuits that are of the same, that are graded, like Algarve/Estoril. We're all thinking of using that as a travel passage and corridor because it seems to have been quite safe there at the moment. So why not open up for that? Imola's on standby for a race. So's Hockenheim, bizarrely. Now's the time to try out different circuits and to throw in the pizzazz. I don't think you should go so nuts that it throws the fabric of what F1 is all about away. But I would have liked more variety of track layout or something like that, because otherwise I
bastard, Vettel.
I can't see too much changing. What's happened?
He just nudged the back of my car and spun me into a wall to try and get past me.
Oh, that's interesting. Manor in the chat. Vettel's first child was born on January 2014. Thinky face. When did he start going tits up at Red Bull? That is lols. Oh, and Vettel got him as well.
Keep the car on the track because Vettel nudged me into a wall like 4 corners from the end. Knight thinks reverse grids work if both races are on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday race, but there's a week between the races, so it's not needed. It's an interesting take on it, because for me, I don't think that would make a difference necessarily.
No, I guess unless
I'm sort of allergic to the concept.
Unless there's extreme weather changes, why would it be? Talking of extreme weather, it's thunder and lightning, so hopefully my internet will stay.
It's going to rain here too as well. I've been hoping for a thunderstorm, but we haven't had one yet. So here's something that did cross my mind though. If we're having 2 British Grand Prix, why do they both have to be at Silverstone?
I know they're only at the same grade, but yes, I know. I think that's the only F1 grade track that we've got. But I completely agree. Why didn't we do, say, Brands? If you're in if they've already gained immunity for getting tested for the coronavirus and doing their own little travel bubble, if they're going to ruin and have dispensation and be treated like gods to break all of the rules around how things work, do it properly and just go around. Oh, I like that one. All 3 tyre compounds must be used would be a good rule for one of them. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that as an idea, for sure. I think...
That was a good one, man.
I'm going to be careful here, because part of me would like to see refuelling races, but I know how dangerous they are, so it's probably not a good idea. But I've got to stop yearning for the golden days, right? Because they're not coming back. The mid '90s or the early '90s, where half the grid was works powered, and you had the tyre wars, meaning some tracks were Bridgestone favoured, some were Goodyear.
Sorry, Radha's just screamed in the chat. No, I think that's over your refuelling suggestion.
Yeah, probably. No, but I mean, if you go back, it did throw up some interesting stuff, right? Particularly, I remember '96, I think it was, where they fueled Eddie Irvine light, so he could get in front of the Williams and then try and hold them up for his teammate who was on a heavier fuel load and stuff like that. It brings all that into play.
Oh yeah, Suzuka 97, where
Or was it 97? I thought it was 96.
Where he drove around the outside of Schumacher and Villeneuve at the same time, wasn't it? When on the lighter fuel, sped off and then made a pit stop and came back out in front and was like, swerving nerve.
You need to ready up, sir.
Oh shit, sorry.
I was eating a strawberry and waiting to see if you'd noticed.
Oh. Sly.
But hey, I finished the race.
Woo! And you're now up into 11th in the driver's title as well. I think Hamilton's going to win this championship. I won't be able to catch him. I am not good at Suzuka. But we normally race quite closely here.
We do. This tends to be where we're closest each year.
I still remember, I'm sure, was it the Caterham's Kings years, where there is just like about a lap of us screaming at each other right round, going,
I mean, we've been doing the show 3 years by then.
Yeah.
And but we'd never actually raced each other.
No.
Because the PC version of the game threw up such varied performance between the cars based on your PC spec and your internet connection quality, that we were just never anywhere near each other. And then, for some reason, everything worked on that one Grand Prix, and we found that we were like lapping within a fraction of a fraction. But to be honest, we're generally quite close in qualifying. I'm not ashamed of our qualifying record. It's my racing this year that bothers me. But the new game's out soon, and I get a fresh start.
Yes. Looking forward to that.
I'm embarrassed to say, gone above and beyond and bought the Steelbook version that comes out a few days early. Not because I actually want to play it early, but
excuse me,
I want all the classic car content and everything, so I might as well.
I've gone for the... Is it the Schumacher edition that comes out on the release day? That one. I didn't do the classic car-y one.
I mean, you get the classic cars anyway, but...
Yeah. There's a couple of extra ones, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to say, though, shout out to Cody's for getting 2 Benettons in there, and the classic Jordan. They've always been reluctant to do stuff like that. I mean, it shows it's possible, though, so maybe they've dug their own grave there, and now when they don't put a Tyrrell 019 in next year, I can legitimately lose my mind at them.
Yes, indeed. I think what I would now like is... it's interesting, because I'd really like full season car sets if it was ever possible. And now that they've had this... franchise now coming up for a decade, and they've just now got the WRC license as well, which is nice. That'll start from a couple of years' time. Do you remember EA's F1 Challenge 9902, where they done...
Yes.
It was like their swan song to their time in the series. I'd really like to see a Cody's kind of retrospective, bringing back all of those old tracks, so that we can relive the heady days. Bring
back Kerrs.
Yeah. Oh, I fucking hated that. But yeah, all at the same time. Because then, you'd have all of those tracks back, and then you could have them just to pepper up the tracks that you're able to drive. All the real driver change moves around, and then you could actually have like a 10-year career that matters instead of a 10-year career that isn't real. Yeah, I mean, I know they do driver changes now, which is great, but yeah, it would just be of interest.
And also, there's technically nothing to stop them from imagining what would have happened if the 3 teams we lost had stayed around.
Yeah, because
they could, get someone like Sean Bull to design liveries for those teams.
Yes.
For the years afterwards, and yeah, oh god, yeah, I'd buy that.
Damn right. I was showing someone the other day F1 Race Stars, just because, and they were just saying like, oh, and he just went into the wall then. That's made me lose my train of thread. Anyway, I should just leave that sentence there. I was showing someone F1 Race Stars. That's all you needed to know. It was.
Codemasters were like, please, no, don't.
Yeah,
we're sorry.
We're very sorry.
I can swing in like Tarzan and save you there.
Okay.
Since you seem to be having Vietnam style flashbacks. Shall we? Well, actually, one thing to add on to that quickly is that they've also got the license to make an F1 management game, haven't they?
Yes, they have. Yes. I've forgotten all about that.
Yeah, they're making a proper F1 management game, which I hope they don't fuck up. I really do. and I hope it's on console as well as PC. But I won't hold my breath. Still though, I mean, people bash Cody's, right? But I mean, their games are a lot better than they were. I mean, the tech problems we used to have with these games years ago were genuinely appalling. And some of the titles, like 2014, 2016, 2019, they all felt like proper leaps forward in many ways. So I think they've got more competent as time goes on. I mean, and how good is Dirt Rally 2.0?
Yeah,
Very,
and
I would argue.
that is proper sim. So they still have their occasional. I think what's really interesting is that yes, it is popular to bash all of this, but they've also now taken over the Project Cars lot, and we've now got Project Cars 3 coming. I don't really like the look of what they've done with that at all, but you can see that it's a well polished looking machine. But then they throw out. Have you seen they've also now got a Fast and Furious game, and it looks atrocious. It just is awful and woeful.
Well, bless them, they're trying.
Yeah, but I don't think people quite realise just how good we've got it, because if you then look at like the WRC games, that the reason why they've got hold of that franchise is that Big Ben can't develop themselves out of a paper bag. Milestone, very competent, but lacks any kind of character or feel of anything whatsoever. So I can't think of another studio which I'd rather support yearly development on, because there's always something that's coming, even if sometimes the ideas aren't necessarily fleshed out very well.
No. I mean, they try. I mean, the thing that's always bothered me about their games is that they introduce an interesting mechanic and then they don't develop it, they just drop it quietly.
Yeah.
And after all these years, they still can't do a compelling career mode. They've made a big improvement with the other drivers changing teams, which is great. But there's still more work to be done, I think.
If I have to have that fucking Emma come back and tell me all about her signing contracts and getting a percentage of her cut with the worst hair graphics ever in a PS5, I will be angry.
Yeah, and Robot Lee McKenzie bothers me as well, because if you do well, you're guaranteed to be interviewed at the weigh-in, and that means every Grand Prix I'm getting like the same 2-3 questions. And at least now I've got a reputation high enough that I can pick an option that doesn't immediately piss off my own team.
Yes.
But that whole mechanic seems way too shallow. And what I also don't like is sometimes I'll have a perfect race. Like I'll get a bonus for 100% clean laps, no incidents, anything. And then she'll go, "What happened out there?"
Yeah, because it will be like you were near someone, and so it's decided that you've hit them. Boo.
Well, like, you left a lot of paint on the walls. And it's like, did I? And then if I answer honestly and select "did I?" ? Then like everyone thinks less of you.
Yeah. Sarcasm.
Instead of her for a. What it needs is a Donald Trump soundbite for that. Like one of the options you can unlock where he just goes, "You are fake news."
It was just great. Yeah.
That's actually quite a good impression you've done there.
Oh dear.
Right, back onto the wonderful, wacky world of Formula One. So, a lot of driver movement since last we spoke.
Yes.
With Danny Rick now confirmed to be joining Lando Norris at McLaren. Not quite sure how I feel about it. I don't really yet feel able to process what the ramifications of that are for all the involved parties. Now I know Will Buxton, who is suddenly the most hated man in Formula One. I still love you, Will. I know he was a big proponent of Ricciardo going to McLaren. I don't know. My faith in Daniel Ricciardo has been shaken a little bit. I think that's the problem.
What's shaken it, and from what perspective?
I don't know if you've seen it too, and that's the collective view, chat. But there's something in his attitude and his tone that has changed the last few years, and I think part of it is the effect of Verstappen winding him up. But he's gone from being innately likeable to being a bit crass and outspoken, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But also, his driving seems to have gone off the boil. I know he did get some good results for Renault, like, with a piece of crap car, but I miss the guy who would carve through the field like butter and make these impossible looking overtakes, and that sort of hunger and fire just seems to have evaporated a bit, and I don't really know where it's gone. I know part of it is obviously the car, but when he was up against Verstappen the year before he left, he had, to my mind, Verstappen's number, and he beat him on points. He was the better driver all round. But then afterwards, it sort of felt like he couldn't compete properly. I still maintain he was faster at Baku, and that accident was Verstappen's fault. But still, I didn't like it. And he had a touch of the Raikkonens to him that just didn't ding my bell.
Oh.
Are you okay?
Oh no.
Confirm you're okay, please.
Good job. It's only one quali. Sorry, I've been hankering to do that every lap. My car's a little bit oversteery. There's something for me that screams. And Mano's chipped in with something very, very similar to what I was going to say. I don't feel like Renault allowed him to be himself, and I feel like when Verstappen came in and the team started to revolve around Verstappen, then Ricciardo's not allowed to be himself either, and that's why he pushed to leave, because it was no longer his team. He arrived at Renault, which is much more of a corporate machine. I can't imagine someone who I'd want to have at my party least than Cyril a bit of bullshit. So
yes, that's true.
Like, the man is just a walking thundercloud. I wonder what sense of humour he does have. I wonder if he has one in general, actually, to be honest. And I think the reason why he's gone to McLaren is that the Norris signs Zach Brown love-in, where it's all happiness, positivity and all of that kind of stuff, is the kind of place where they would be quite relaxed and happy and allow him to be back to being himself again. And maybe that's what's driven it. There's something also around me and the move between into teams like that, apart from the fact that we wasn't quite sure if Renault was going to hit the fan and leave, is how much of this is performance driven. And there's a bit of me that thinks, how financially driven is this decision for Danny Rick? And is he chasing the money more than chasing the ultimate reward? And that's the only thing that kind of makes me go, Manor House has popped in the chat as well. I feel like he was put under pressure to be more professional at Renault, whether that was self-imposed or from Cyril, I don't know.
You see, the thing is, it's not that I'm without sympathy for Renault in this. Because, they did hail Ricciardo as the next coming of Jesus.
Before then slating him when he left.
Yeah, which kind of shows the true colours a bit. But, they were... I would say the team was doing its best for him. It just failed to deliver. And as Canaanite says, the team wasn't right for him. They weren't as good as they could be. Yeah, I agree that they produced a bad car and a bad power unit, and that's on them for sure. But when he made that decision, you and I have been saying he needs to go to Renault or McLaren and make the team his own.
Yeah.
Because he is a number one driver, quality driver.
Being paid as one as well.
Yeah, he just, he needs a team that's going to meet him halfway. And McLaren is maybe a bit less stuffy than it was, but it's still McLaren. You're still going to have someone, telling you what to say most of the time. I think Lando and Carlos kind of got away with it a bit because a lot of the content that McLaren was sharing was stuff that they filmed themselves in their free time. Mm-hmm. And then once it started resonating with the fans, then they were sort of allowed off the leash a little bit. But
Yeah.
I still think McLaren is McLaren, and if you watch the Grand Prix Driver Series, when they're trying to present Stoffel Van Dorn as an interesting human being, you see him being like stage managed to within an inch of his life before he steps out to talk to the press, and they're telling him exactly what sentences to say, and I don't think that's totally gone away. I don't think it ever really goes away when so much money's involved.
No.
So, for me, I think, maybe there's a lot to be gained from going to McLaren, not just... Oh, bastard. Not just because it's a team in the ascendancy. No, you've ruined my lap, Hulkenberg. Thanks very much.
Boo. McLaren do offer opportunities to try other things, such as Indy or Bathurst, which could appeal to him. Oh, I didn't think of Bathurst as an Aussie.
I think there was... they were floating the idea of sending both drivers to Bathurst at some point in the future, but I don't know whether that was just an off-the-cuff remark. I know, though, Danny Rick has said he never wants to do IndyCar.
Uh-huh.
He feels too intimidated by it. He said the Brickyard is too scary. He doesn't feel like he wants to do it. And I kind of respect him for saying that because... it's not exactly what you'd expect from the usual bravado-wielding racing driver, right?
Yeah.
To say, look, what those guys do scares me.
No, completely agree.
You won't have noticed that because you weren't in control of the car, but I slid around that entire corner.
I caught the end of it. But yeah. Ouch.
I'm trying to be slow enough that I can start going quick now, without running into anybody, but also not having Magnussen interfere with my lap either by driving too slowly.
Should be alright. Got plenty up ahead.
I'm going to shut up now while I do my qualifying lap, but I have more to say on this.
Okay.
Once this lap is done, I want to be better than fifth, and I know I can be.
I shall chime in. Oh, you've done exactly what I did.
Fuck.
That's all right. We questioned Collie. That means good, bad dress rehearsal, great performance.
You see what that was there, right? I've been braking
Pressure.
slightly into that corner all the way through, and I felt like the car can hold the line. And it does.
Yeah.
It just you run out onto the curb and the back end just goes. So lesson learned.
Booger wooger.
Never mind. We're halfway through the stream and it's my first crash, so that's an improvement over the year.
Deja vu typed in the
No,
chat.
what I had to say was, I think that, to be honest, part of what isn't sitting right with me is the feeling that Carlos Sainz deserves to ride the crest of the hard work he's done and the sterling performance he put in last year. Mm-hmm. And I think Danny Rick gains a lot more moving from Renault to McLaren than Sainz does moving from McLaren to Ferrari, because I actually think that could end up being the kiss of death for him as a potential championship contending driver.
I agree. I do worry for Carlos Sainz. I feel like McLaren should have been on the ascendancy, continue to be on the ascendancy. That was a dream team. Why did they rock the boat? And it's this call for Ferrari, which I must admit, I know I'm in the minority. I just don't have it. That continues to just pull people like a moth to a flame to ruin their careers, and I think that it will be much more even than what maybe some people think between Sainz and Leclerc. But they are incapable of running a two-car team properly because it's just how they're not set up to be. And so Carlos, for me, if he can't get in there and stick his feet under the table straight away, then he will be eaten alive by that system. The only thing that he's got going for him is the fact that he continues to rise from as a phoenix from ashes from all kinds of shit. And perhaps if Danny Rick does not go down well in McLaren, there'll be a swapsy there in the future. And that's about the only thing that I can think of positive. As we quit quiet for the... Oh, that was a good start from me for once.
Again, I did not start well.
Fuck's sake.
What happened?
I braked. Whoever behind me did not.
Yeah, it's the starts that really screw you. I've lost like a whole bunch of places just because I thought, right, I'm going to drive on the grass and that way I'm not going to get pincered, because in career mode, this is the race I have to restart the most. Because the starts are always horrible. Really, really horrible. And they end up like fucking 6 wide or something. Get out of my way.
Cool, I'm pitting at the end of the lap.
Right, sorry, I can brain again now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why the appeal was there for Carlos. I think we all do. And there's not really anything to say that he couldn't move into that team and actually turn out to be perfectly capable of matching or beating Leclerc. I don't think that's the prevailing consensus, but let's not forget this is a guy who actually matched Verstappen most of the time.
Yeah.
So he's no slouch, and you know his reputation's only been damaged by the fact that he's not Max Verstappen.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, it's a clear one-car team and always has been. And you know, Binotto keeps alluding to the fact that we need to stop running the team like that, but you know they never do. Leclerc had to essentially ignore the team half the time to get some of the results he got. And even then, they managed to take each other out and run into all kinds of horrible problems from having two drivers that were both vying to be the team's lead prospect.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, was a bit too tight. I'm getting overtakes done, but in the worst possible places.
Do me proud.
Avenge me.
Endgame me.
Right. And, you know, my worry now is, of course, that maybe it comes to pass that McLaren continue on this upward trajectory, benefit from the budget cap, and the switch to Mercedes power units, and suddenly find themselves a top 3 team again. And Ferrari, by all accounts, have a car that will struggle to match that kind of performance, and will do for at least Sainz's first year with the team.
And that is a team, to me, who will struggle by far the most with the budget cap. Ferrari.
Yeah.
Because they just piss money everywhere, and they have no concept of saving. They never have, and they never will. The reason why Schumacher was able to drag that team anywhere from where they were to being champions was because they just spent money all day, every day, going around Fiorano, just lapping everything all the time. The reason why he was a perfectionist is because he basically had that car moulded to his anus, like 9 to 5 all day long, and they had the money and the capacity and ability to do it, and they don't now. And I think that being able to...
but I did see... sorry to cut you off, but I
Yeah.
saw actually Ferrari and Mercedes are doing private tests ahead of the season start, which I thought were banned.
That makes much more sense now, because I was wondering why it kept on saying things like, "Oh, back in the car next week," and I'm thinking, how?
Yeah, they've arranged private tests.
I don't understand how that is part... Because surely they've done their shakedown stuff.
Well, I mean, maybe it's classed as a filming day, or maybe they've offered to test for Pirelli. But yeah, it's bad.
Ugh. Annoying me.
Stroll? No. Confirm change. Well, he tried to nudge me into the barrier, and then I catch the car, which was nothing short of a fucking miracle, and then he tries to get past me, and I was like, no, you don't get to cheat and then prosper. Cheaters never prosper. My primary school teachers told me that. It's still true. I have to believe it's still true. Like, when am I pitting now? What have I just agreed to?
Oh, these medium tyres aren't great.
Yeah, I didn't think they would be. I'm now pitting lap 8. Seems a little optimistic. Canaanite views Leclerc as a number 2 driver. That's a bold assertion.
Ooh.
Someone's had their Weetabix this morning. Flame on, internet.
Yeah. Don't put that on Twitter. You will never survive the night.
But
Don't
yeah,
do
and then you know, of course, all this strange driver carousel opens up the next can of worms, which is, you know, the prevailing rumours that maybe Vettel replaces Bottas at Mercedes, which seems completely ludicrous. Or that he goes to Renault, which seems also mad. Or Bottas goes to Renault, or Alonso goes to Renault. Like, the whole thing's nuts.
I don't see any of those at Renault. I think there's more chance of Alonso coming back to Renault, which just makes me shudder.
I think it will be Alonso, actually. It does. The wind does seem to be blowing that way, and I really wish it wasn't. Because, you know, the whole sport's standing downwind of it, and it doesn't smell very nice.
Agree.
And again, you know, the FIA, or Liberty Media, actually, shouldn't be giving teams money to pay a driver's salary and then allowing a team like Williams to essentially liquidate. That's, to me, is nuts. Like, if you're going to throw money at teams, throw it at keeping them in the sport.
Oh, hang on. I've had a bit of a weird glitch.
What's your weird glitch?
Sorry, that was bizarre. Okay, I'm back going again.
I'm a bit slow because I've lost my front wing. But it's not so bad that I can't... now it's bad.
Oh no!
I tried braking, I really did.
Safety car deployed.
Oh, safety car!
Being deployed.
You
you're
star!
welcome.
Thank you very much.
We catch the pack.
You're welcome. I just forgot, while I was talking about
Reduce your pace.
not having a front wing, I forgot that it affects your braking distance. I just went full into the back of Perez.
You
Oh, Williams
absolutely...
double boxing.
Right, I am going to go tactical on this. And I'm not
Oh,
going to box
fucking
on the
Delta.
first one.
Catch the safety car queue, but don't exceed the delta. That's just stupid. I still hate how the safety car is implemented in this game.
Agree.
Because it says do not exceed the delta, right, for the first lap,
Yeah.
and then afterwards there's no delta anymore. So what difference does it make? Just back up behind the safety car, surely.
Drop your speed. Our delta is too low.
Ah,
Risk a penalty.
yeah, the safety car hasn't picked up the leader yet. That's why.
That'll be why.
Oh well, this race is basically over because we have to all now. Hopefully not with the delta the whole way. We all have to basically lap the safety car to form the queue, and then you have to do at least one lap with the entire field behind the safety car before the safety car even thinks of coming in.
It normally comes up with a 3-lapper for me. Oh, there we go. Now delta's off. Great. Right, I'm going to... Oh, now I wonder.
You're not pitting now while you're under the safety car. You could
Yeah,
easily
yeah.
make the softs run till the end.
That's what I'm going to do.
Because I could get 8 laps out of the softs, and there's only 8 laps left.
But I'm going to go round again to catch up so that when I do pit... Because it's only Russell that's just behind me. It doesn't really matter.
Pitting this lap then. Come into the pits at the end of this lap.
But I want to
And
have
then
this...
actually, you're going to be the only one on softs, I would imagine.
Yep. Because lots
I
of
don't
people...
know if I've got any softs left, because, you know, you're tempting me now. Ken Knight thinks Alonso should do a full season IndyCar. I kind of agree, but to be honest with you, I don't care where he goes as long as it's not Formula 1. No, but legit, he's had his time, right?
Agree.
He's done his day. There's young drivers waiting to get in. There's less and less seats for those young drivers.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty toxic at any team he goes to, and he hasn't been truly successful since 2007. So, you know, I still think he's one of the greatest drivers of his generation, but you know,
Time to move on.
no, yeah, it's time to move. I mean, Alan Prost is one of the greatest of all time, but you know, and he's still alive. But I don't talk about him coming back.
No, and he's got the most aerodynamic nose of all time. So, like,
Precisely, yeah. I mean, he was born in the wind tunnel.
God, could you imagine giving birth to that and that nose popped out first? It'd be like Sharknado gone wrong. Boom.
It's a CFD model, Mrs. Prost.
That's another person who I can't imagine what his actual sense of humour would be like.
Well, he's French, so
Actually, that is a common denominator against everyone that I've been horrible to in this stream so far. I promise I'm not anti-France. I like French.
Release.
yeah, I agree, Ken Knight. If he wants to do a triple crown and he wants to win the Indy 500, then he should be doing full seasons of IndyCar. I agree. I think what he's been secretly hoping for is to trade on his name like he did with Le Mans. And then he got into a car that had no competition. And he's like, oh, look, I won. And he's like, well, of course you fucking won, because there was only 2 cars capable of winning, and you were in one of them. I think he was really thinking that, you know, a front-running IndyCar outfit would take him on for that race. And I think that actually shows a level of disrespect to that particular sport that I find a little galling.
Yeah. But I wonder who else I would then put in that Renault seat if it's not going to. If Alonso won't be paid to get in there, which I still think is the most likely option. Would you see Hulkenberg coming back in with a big "see you later" coming back in again?
I don't know. He said that he wants to come back, but I don't know if. I mean, would you trust Renault again?
I would be sitting there saying 1 year deal, mate, and being very not blatant, but like cagey about it. Righty. This could be 5 laps, or it could be 5 corners, depending on how I drive.
Depends on what Sergio Perez does right now.
Some of this energy.
Ah. Well, that's one call. What one person made, thank you.
I got wise to his tricks and I could see what he was going to do, but the line was mine under the rules, and I turned into the corner, and if he's not alongside me, which he wasn't, then if he runs into me, that's his problem.
Might ruin that.
I actually think the AI in this version of the game is a step back over last year, because 18 and 17's AI I loved racing against, but this one I just find obnoxious.
Slightly too aggressive. My thing about that is that it's because they continue to court with sim racers that don't drive properly. To be part of their beta testers. I know their YouTube personalities. Yes, I know people go on there, although some of those YouTube personalities, I really don't understand how they've managed to get it. Because they're very anodyne and they don't have any kind of personality. Maybe that's the key to it. But, when I watch them, I then understand why the AI is how it is, because they do what I've just done there, but they would do it over a car and then be like, oh, why has the AI done that? Oh, loads of them have pitted.
Yeah.
Lols.
Happy birthday to me.
Thanks.
Canaanite is asking how long we think before Mick Schumacher's in an Alfa Romeo.
2020.
As soon as Kimi Raikkonen retires.
Yeah, actually, that is a better answer than I was going to say.
He's got one foot in the car anyway, to be honest. I don't think they'll drop Giovinazzi. I think he's in there for the long haul, to be honest. I agree, Kimi isn't going anywhere right now, but I argue that he probably should. His second half at Alpha last year was pretty dire. And at Ferrari, he completely lost all his fire in his belly. And, whenever he got overtaken by someone, which happened far more often than it should have done, given the pace of that car, I had no faith in his ability to get back in front of the car that had overtaken him. Well, actually, not no faith in his ability, but no faith in his desire to get back in front.
Which are two very different things, because actually, in terms of speed and pace, he's there or thereabouts. He's a few tenths off. But you're right. I don't remember him overtaking anyone outside of the opening lap of something, and that was a miracle if that happened. And it was more about trusty defence and being there when it kind of mattered strategically, when he was allowed to be. And that's the same kind of thing that's true again at Alfa Romeo. His wily head keeps him out of the dramas in the opening laps, and then he was able to quietly pick up the pieces, but not necessarily by overtaking anyone or doing anything.
Oh, huge accident. Huge accident with Bottas, and it was like a 4-car pile-up.
Oh, superb. Oh, yeah, I've seen Bottas just at the side of the road.
Funny enough, it's Raikkonen that seems to have caused it.
Lol.
Now I'm in a queue behind 3 cars that will all kill me if I try and pass. Come on, no, I'm not doing this. Not playing this game.
Oh, I'm just at the back of that queue.
Yeah, Kimi's got half a front wing, and the other cars were making no effort to get past him. Oh god, now I've got Verstappen up my arse. He's going to kill me.
Yeah, I'm not playing ball. Oh, I wasn't going to play ball until fucking Kubica smashes into the back of me like Rosset. In that... Oh, now we're all locked wheel. For fuck's sake.
The AI is balked, isn't it?
I think so.
They just do really stupid things. How's Lando Norris in fourth? What's going on? I mean, also, I think part of this mentality Kimi's had with his driving in the last few years has been a result of sort of the Ferrariization of him. You know,
that is such a good word. Word?
Yeah.
Verb, even. It's a word and a verb.
You're living in Germany. That is a nice verb. Because, you know, he's always had to drive knowing that in somewhere in the back of the garage, someone's plotting to treat him like an Aztec human sacrifice over the course of a race.
That is true. And that would piss me off and make me not very forthcoming in wanting to actually
he's thinking
be
to
good.
himself, what's the point in fighting this battle? Because I'm going to be on these tyres for 112 laps until the carcass is exposed, and then they might let me pit. So yeah, I guess that takes away your ability to feel confident in being able to fight over a race distance. So I don't know. It's odd, and like his career has outlived the whole careers of some other drivers that you already thought were quite old. Any young Japanese drivers likely to make it into F1 in the next 5 years? Simon, this is your area of specialist. This is like your mastermind specialist subject.
If the closest one to it would be, thank you very much for 20 points, I will say. So the main one would be Matsushita in GP2. The problem is that he's been in GP2 for 7 years. So I don't see him going anywhere. He's good, and he's slowly learnt how to actually keep hold of tyres for a lot of time. But he is quick. It's just he's been overlooked too many times, so he won't come. I genuinely think actually the next, since we're going for Formula Fetus, it might end up being Juju Noda, depending on how she ends up getting on, and then that will cause all kinds of waves. Outside of that, though, maybe Sonoda down in Formula 3, or
Marino Sato.
No.
Not a fan.
No, and the reason why is that he has always been on the same career ladder as Leclerc, Norris. No, more a couple of years behind Norris, to be fair. I'm thinking of names. Albon and people like that. And he's always been towards the back of the grid, and he always takes one season longer to try and like come back up again. So no, I don't think Marino Sato will go anywhere outside of Super Formula.
Super Formula.
And then there's the one that done the Red Bull test.
Yeah, I mean, see, I'd like to see him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him make it in. He's a very likable guy, and I think he's definitely good enough for F1, but he just doesn't seem to be interested.
No, which I find quite funny. And Super Formula has now got its English broadcast over on the race still, so that's good. So you can keep your eye on his stuff there. Manners asked us, do we know which team we'll be using for the F1 2020 Failcast season yet?
Oh, that's a good question, because we can create our own team, but also, you know...
I'm assuming we can do that in online co-op.
But I don't know. I mean, see, the temptation's always to go AlphaTauri and stay where we are now, but I know that everyone will be driving that car, so it'll be very, very boring and unimaginative. We've never driven Williams.
No. And I don't know quite what they're going to do with the performance patch, if there's going to be a performance patch to be how they really are or where they think they are, if that makes sense. Because do you remember with these games all the time, it's always based off the first race of the season, and then you get a performance patch a few days later. Yeah. Well,
I mean, this game, they never fixed that, did they? Because, like, Robert Kubica, P10 in this Grand Prix. See, I'd be tempted to say Williams. I will be tempted to say Williams. It's been a while since we've been in a true back marketing.
And I guess as well, it could be their swan song as Williams' team.
Yeah.
Which is why we chose Toro Rosso.
And it's why we chose Force India.
Basically, we're the fucking kiss of death to any F1 team that we race as.
We have one last question before we close it out. Ken and I asked, is David Schumacher going to make it to F1? Now, he is Ralph Schumacher's son. See, the Schumacher name should lend some of its magic, I would think, but I don't know. I mean, I still argue to this day that Ralph Schumacher shouldn't have made it into F1.
I see. On his day, I think Ralph Schumacher was very, very good. I just think that he spent far too many years in Toyota coasting it with a Trilly, and should have gone sooner. What is David Schumacher up to at the moment? I'm not really aware of his aliveness.
Isn't he? Now, see, I don't want to get this wrong now. It's because I've been watching Mick Schumacher more because he feels like that's the one who's going to jump into F1 soonest.
Yes.
But wasn't he in F4?
Maybe.
I want to say he was in F4, but I could be wrong. That said, I honestly don't know. His name only came to my mind really because Ken asked the question, but also his name came up the other day because I saw Ralph Schumacher putting the boot into Williams while they're down, saying, well, they should never have stopped hiring the best drivers that they could afford. Which, in hindsight, maybe there's some truth to that, but you could argue that George Russell was an attempt to sign a promising driver based on merit.
Yeah,
I'm sure they got a nice, tasty wad of cash from Mercedes for doing it, but that'll be interesting actually if Williams doesn't race in 21. What happens to Russell? But we can cover that next time out. But honestly, my gut says no, David Schumacher won't make it. Not unless he sort of picks up a championship in a junior Formula E, and I don't know if that's necessarily likely. I mean, to be honest, Mick Schumacher's not really that impressive in junior Formula E, and he's only getting there because he's Michael's son.
Absolutely. Which is why I don't think that they will move him up this year. I don't think he'll be there next year either, regardless of what happens with F2 this year, purely because there was a point in F3 where both him and Robert Schwartzman just suddenly came alive in this middle half of the season, and actually the rumours were they're doing something weird with the cars, not that he was great. He then spent most of last year in F2 not doing tons better than Sean Gelael, everyone's favourite KFC extraordinaire. And we all know what he can and can't do. So, like, everyone in their first year, like, get to grips, get going and stuff. But if I was looking at promising rookies in F2 last year, for me it was the Chinese driver Guan Yuzhu, who I've been championing for ages. And
you see, I could see him making it in if this Panther team enters.
Absolutely.
Like, he would be the logical choice for me. And I'd partner him with the Chinese driver who's at Neo in Formula E at the moment, King Ma.
Oh, Ma Qinghua.
Yeah. We're going to have to get used to pronouncing these Chinese names because there's a lot of promising Chinese drivers out there, actually. And they've got the money behind them to really take them in an F1 direction. So we're going to have to get better at that. Anyway, not too shabby. I finished 5th in both races. Back in the top 10 in the drivers.
And we're only now 11 points behind Ferrari in the constructors. So we've got an eye on your back, Vettel. You're going to have to break one way or another. Digital art will imitate life.
Yeah, well, actually, isn't 3rd our best ever finish?
Yes.
So we need to, because we finished 3rd with Haas.
Mm-hmm. Don't half-Haas that.
And so, yeah, 2nd or above we need. So join us next time, 2 weeks from today, where we will be doing our very bestest to close that gap and have something to talk about. Hopefully some news happens. We still won't have hit the track, will we, by 2 weeks' time?
No, we'd just been before, though. Yeah, just before.
Yeah, so actually join us for a pre-season special. There you go. And we'll do some predictions for you. Thank you everyone who stopped in. Anything from you, Simon?
No, stay safe, keep enjoying life, and don't let the world get you down.
No, the shower of bastards.
We'll be racing again soon, don't you worry. Take care all.
Bye-bye.